What's going on, everybody? We are back here once again, and we've got 2025 predictions up. I'm excited, but this is going to be, it's going to be another episode on what we got wrong from last year. I think that's the best part about it. Once again,
wrong from every episode.
Yeah. You know,
we need to be humbled every now and again.
I think that's part of it.
Do we know officially that we were wrong? Because I'm almost 100% I nailed something. You just throw enough generic stuff out there.
Yeah, we'll save it for the show. We'll be able to talk about it a little bit. Y'all doing good though? Everybody except people in Kentucky right now that are snowed in.
Good times, man. Good times.
No DC travel for me today. It was they got hit up there as well. So yeah, I mean it's freezing in Florida, but yeah, like 50 degrees freezing, not an actual freezing in snow.
And Eric just sits back and laughs when we say we get snow.
Yeah. We had a foot the other day like it was nothing.
Well, I tell you what, man, I had an Eric Church interview scheduled this week, and I was like, I'm not driving to Nashville. Just straight up canceled it, or rescheduled it. It's just been, I don't, driving out here. It's not that I'm afraid of the roads. I'm afraid of idiots. People down here just cannot drive in the snow. They just cannot drive.
Yeah, seeing the videos.
I've got a good Eric
people
Church
in Kansas
story.
City.
Did Kansas City get hit too?
Yeah, seeing the videos like of people sliding everywhere was crazy. I was like, oh my god, it was nuts.
I saw with the I think it was a truck that just went right through the middle of the intersection on the freeway or whatever.
Yeah, and some lady was coming down a ramp and like she couldn't stop her car, so she jumped out of her car and let it just crash into like a ravine. I was like, oh my god.
That's one way to do it.
I mean, at that point, are you in trouble? Like, are you expected to go down with the ship, or can you just abandon and nope, you're on your own? Sorry.
Ask our resident lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, but yeah, get out if you can. But I haven't seen that video, but man.
Business decision.
Yeah.
All right. You guys ready to kick this thing off?
Let's
do it.
All right. Here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back. It is another episode of Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of Bourbon, the official podcast Bourbon for 2025 as well, because this is going to kick off the 2025 editions of Community Roundtable. And as usual, we are going to give our biggest predictions of the year going into it. This is one time when we love doing this. Who says we get it right? We mostly get it wrong, but I think the best thing is we can talk about it and put some wild claims out there. So, Ryan and Fred, you guys doing all right tonight?
Absolutely, man. It's just so good to see you all. I got a question for Ryan. What is this salt spreader? Oh, it's because of the ground. Never mind. I just saw he changed. So for those who are just listening to this on the replay, Ryan's name on there is Salt Spreader, and I was like, what is he talking about? Then I realized he's talking about the ice salt. So
yeah,
I get it.
Ice melt, got pre-treat, helps it clean up a lot easier when you're snowstorming.
Are you doing that? Are you doing that with your company, or are you just in general doing it?
Just for Pursuit and the style box here at my house, my wife's salon. So yeah, I got out and pre-treated, then got out and shovel. So I'm gonna need massages for the next 3 days. My back is tight.
Well, that's what Fred's here for.
Yeah,
right.
I'll give you a massage. I'll give you a massage. I'll give you a massage. I'm a good masseuse.
Jiu-jitsu headlock massage.
Actually, you know what? There's not a lot of headlocks. Be more of a judo headlock. But beyond that, I will get my fingers deep into your scapulary and work out your muscles. That'd be good. While Kenny watches in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there for it, so don't you worry about it. I might jump in too. We'll just tag team it when we have to give him a nice good deep.
Probably the wrong phrase to use there, the tag team there, Kenny.
Hey, but listen, hey, when your muscles tire out, you just reach for me in the corner. I'll be here, just like putting my arm out. Just tag me in. Put me in.
I feel like this is a Seinfeld episode coming.
Somebody watching this for the
This
first.
new camera setup has a lot, or makes a lot more sense now. Getting doing this massage talk, so starting to see why y'all need 3 cameras in there.
Hey, this is just what happens when you have 3 best friends that run the largest whiskey podcast out there, right? We just
My
know each
God.
other way too well.
Yeah,
Kenny
I do
Crust
miss.
starring
I do miss you
OnlyFans
guys.
For
I
us.
can't wait to record again. I know it's going to be a while, but I miss that.
We're not far off. Actually, I would say we are a little far off because, this is typically the time of the year when we start getting ready. I mean, we would have had everything booked for January and February for recordings for the second half of the year, but we had recorded so much last time that we've got all of our content done to about the first week of June at this point. So
Yeah.
we won't be recording any new episodes until about the March, April time frame, and that's at the same exact time frame. We're going to open up our new podcast studio at the home of Pursuit Spirit. So we're going to have a lot of stuff happening at once.
Pretty pumped about that.
Oh, me too.
We'll have an official home.
Yeah.
Even though we've had an official home.
We've had a kind of an official home, but this will be fun. It'll be a more official home. How about that? Very good. All right, let's go ahead and go around as well. So quick introductions. Brian, Sipping Corn, go for it.
All right, happy to be on number 102 here in the snow. I've been shoveling just like you guys, everyone else in Kentucky. Happy to sit down with the bourbon and help loosen that back up. Brian with Sipping Corn and Bourbon Justice.
Oh, as always, Blake.
Yep, good to be back for 102. Blake from Seal Box.
And our friends over at Breaking Bourbon.
Oh, I'm Eric from Breaking Bourbon. I'm looking forward to this episode and seeing how many I didn't get wrong from last year, since I wasn't here last year. So we'll see what the other guys from Breaking Bourbon actually got wrong. But I'm on the roll tonight, so we'll see how many I get wrong a year from now.
Oh, there you go. I like it. You can claim, be like, well, it wasn't my guesses. So that's perfect. Before we start diving into 2025 predictions, I guess the first thing we should do is look at our 2024 predictions. Does anybody have any recollection of what they predicted? If not, I've got them all here. I actually took a transcript of the last show, fed it into ChatGPT, and I said, tell me what everybody did. And so I've got it. I've got them all listed on here.
How long did that take, by the way?
About 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Coming
think
around.
If I
Most of the time was
recall,
spent uploading and then getting the transcript.
if I recall, I think I predicted MGP would buy someone else out, but I was totally wrong. I think.
You didn't have that one. There was something where we all did come together. We talked about other acquisitions. Some of them we did throw out. We said Still Austin, OKI, Peerless. But the other one that was on here, it said Blue Run. And I can't remember if Blue Run was actually acquired in 24 or if that happened from Coors back in 23. So somebody fact checked me.
That happened in like August of 23.
Okay, that's what I thought. ChatGPT got us 92% of the way there. So I really don't think there were any huge acquisitions that happened in 24, but it's not surprising considering the economic turn in whiskey and that people really weren't spending in regards of acquisitions. But then again, yet another year, Four Roses did not get acquired for Fred.
Yeah, I do believe that was one of my predictions last year. But I think I also predicted that the federal government would come out with a new guidelines or something about the federal government having like an impact on labeling or how much we should drink a day. Did I say that? If not, that's...
Well, I'm looking on here. I don't know if you actually were on the 24 episode. There you go. That might be a reason why.
Ask her if he was on there.
Yeah, I know. But Fred, I did see something that did come out. Last week, talking about how alcohol is now associated with 7 different kinds of cancer or something like that.
Yeah, and they're trying to get a Surgeon General warning put on the label. It's crazy because you ran that above the chart that it recorded like 5-6 months ago, like 3 days before it dropped, before that happened. So it was interesting timing on your part, Kenny. It's as if, you know what the federal government's going to be doing.
or it sounds like you know the exact kind of questions to be answered when it comes to it, because it never really crossed my mind. I mean, honestly, it's like you think about alcohol. Like alcohol has been in society since BC, right? You think of wine, you think of everything. It's like all of a sudden now there's going to be the pitchforks that come out for it. It seems a little ludicrous, in my opinion, to kind of do this. I understand that the younger generation isn't drinking as much, but I would be remiss to kind of see any of this actually have any real stronghold to make a significant dent in the culture in the next decade.
Yeah, I would say it has, and it continues to. And you could just look at it on like if Instagram feeds, right? These like health people with a big microphone, and they talk about these are 7 reasons why you should never drink, and like you die 5 times every time you have a shot of whiskey. They make up stuff like that all the time. And man, it circulates. You look at those views, and they have a lot more views than us. But this always goes back to Canada. Canada is such a world leader in public health decisions. So, like back in the early, 1980s, they started testing products for a particular compound that's a congener, and they basically led the entire world for testing for that particular compound, and it changed how just what kind of barley distilleries use. So when Canada came out with their change of guidelines in January 2023, the rest of the world began to go into a motion of like, okay, well, Canada did this, World Health Organization starts making recommendations, and now the United States has come out with their recommendation that they should change. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We have hundreds of years of data, like you said, Kenny, on alcohol, but it's okay for them to have like a coloring or a flavoring that they just introduced into our society, 5 years ago, be in every single kid's lunch. And, to me, it's an easy deflection. Like alcohol is never going to have the populace come up and stand up for it. So to me, it's a deflection for all the other bullshit that they're making us put in our bodies. So that's a whole another big, long podcast for us. But
so we should blame Monsanto, is what you're trying to say?
We just went deep there. How deep do we want to get in this one?
This would be a good episode.
I mean, it could be, but I mean, it's like, I've spent years on this stuff, and it's depressing as shit. And they always come after the alcohol industry, and the alcohol industry really messed up when they started paying for studies. And so they do have that kind of hanging over them all the time, is that no one will believe that alcohol. No one's saying that this shit's good for you. Nobody's saying that. But when they started paying for studies, like saying like, okay, tell us that, how it helps the heart, they got kind of compromised there. The alcohol industry did. So
everybody pays for those studies. I mean, asbestos paid for studies to say
that's right. Yeah.
And cigarettes and all that. So
yeah. Yep.
Kenny, I think I kind of had a downer of a prediction last year. I think I had a doom and gloom prediction. So I maybe got the wrong distillery on it. I didn't say MGP drops 3/4 of its value or anything like that, but I think I picked on Beam for a minute.
You did. You had 2 of them. You were definitely on the we'll say the glass half empty kind of side of the industry here. So you looked at first off was big bourbon layoffs, talk about slowing demand. It's going to force large brands like Beam to start cutting jobs. We never really saw that. The only job we really did see get cut was the MGP CEO. So there's that one. And then you also said industry overcorrection. So many brands, especially new entrants, would close as distributors start focusing on the established players, which that might actually have some truth to it, because we start seeing, or maybe start hearing the rumblings from the ACSA as well as ADI talking about how distributors aren't giving attention to craft players. Therefore, craft players can't get their product out to market. Therefore, craft players' doors are closing.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty good, actually. I mean, and it would be one I would say you'd roll into 2024. I think in that it's that middle tier, it's the distributor tier that is cutting a lot of people, and seeing pretty big layoffs with the big guys. And I won't name the distributor or brand, but I had a distillery that told me that their major distributor basically said, "Hey, we're taking our top 25 in our portfolio. That's who's getting all of our attention and sales team and everything else. We can be your logistics if you want that. If not, happy to see you out the door." That has
Wow.
a lot of repercussions for these smaller brands. And um, while we're not going to see Beam have a layoff because of that reason, could be something else. But I think we could see others have a lot of issues if they can't find the right partners in the market. Um, but yeah, all in all, I kind of forgot how much of a Debbie Downer Brian was last year.
I try sometimes. I can't always be Mr. Positive.
Well,
The
Blake,
lawyer has to come out every now and then, not often, but just once a year.
do you remember what you talked about last time?
I do not. I think I predicted that American Single Malt would be named a category. Pursuit would move into a new building. No, I'm just kidding. I have no clue. I was trying to think of what happened this year that I was gonna try to claim.
So one is that you thought you were going to see like more niche brands connected to kind of like more sports and lifestyle, maybe like an NFL themed bourbon, which I think there might have been something.
Go
like
Eagles go, or Fly Eagles fly, or what's the one they've got? The Eagles have their own bourbon now.
Yeah,
There's a
I do
Carolina
remember.
Panthers one came out with
Panthers have one.
the Southern. I think it was what's their name? Southern
Yeah,
Star.
the
Southern
Wheaton
Distilling?
Company, Southern
Yeah,
Star.
Southern. Yeah, Southern Distilling has one with them. Denver has one with Breckenridge, and yeah, Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia has a vodka too. So
Yeah. And then the other one that Blake also said was the craft whiskey boom. He thought craft distilleries with aged whiskey are going to shine as larger brands increase prices, making craft a better value proposition. That might have been a little self-serving, but I think
No, not what makes you think that? What makes you? No, I mean, I'm not going to say 2 for 2. I'm going to say like give me 75% on both of those answers, because they were just general enough that I could say I was right no matter what happened. But I will say, on the craft side, I do think it is coming a little more into the mainstream, and I know I'm in an echo chamber a bit. But on Instagram, it is fun, and Twitter as well, to see, or excuse me, X, like all the chatter of like, what are you most excited for in 2025? And a lot of the distilleries that get named, the Still Austins, the High Wires, the Bardstown Bourbon Companies, all those are smaller producers. We all know the big guys are going to continue to have a platform, but it is fun to see people get excited for some of the smaller guys who have good age statements. So
yeah, I mean, I
look
look at like Whiskey Acres, Middle West. There's a lot of smaller distilleries that are just have some great age statements. Their whiskey is fantastic, and you know what? They're getting on a lot of lists. They're catching a lot of attention. 14 of my top 25 were were independent companies. Not all of them were craft distillers, but 14 out of 25. That's a lot.
I was going to say, I saw
NGP in there.
there was
that's almost 50%.
we're not good at math, but we're close, right? And I do remember seeing a lot of Still Austin on a few people's top 10 lists. So that does mean that they are doing something good. Who knows? Maybe that came out a little bit out of left field, thinking that Texas whiskey was going to really start being a major player in regards to that. And maybe it's not just Texas. Maybe it is just Still Austin, and they're starting to get the recognition that took them a couple years to finally get there, but it's starting to be well deserved.
Yeah, I think Still Austin was smart in that other Texas distilleries kind of wanted to make their own style, and Still Austin kind of replicated Kentucky style production methods and made it their own with blue corn, red corn, and whatnot, but using like the traditional column still, and then having Fraley there. Yeah, I've been really pumped about Still Austin.
Yeah, for sure. Well, since Nick from Breaking can't be here, let's go ahead and talk about his. First was that he thought there was going to be a big move to brands going to 700 mLs, especially as global markets align on packaging standards. Debatable. I think it's still the big players that kind of take that sort of push and kind of go with it. I don't think that I haven't seen a whole lot of brands do a whole big shift, especially for market demand, and who knows what international demand is going to be like when Trump takes office, and we'll see what tariffs have into it and stuff like that as well. He had also mentioned that the American single malt is going to experience growth. It's going to gain more attention and traction despite skepticism from others. Now, I don't know if we said like, okay, finally they're going to sign the dotted line and it's going to be its own category, but he said it was going to gain more attention. I think that's probably right. We had our top whiskeys of the year, and Ryan even chose an American single malt as one of his top whiskeys of the year. So I think that says something for you.
I really didn't want to, but it was really good. That Westward was good.
Yep. All right, Ryan, do you remember what you had said last year?
I don't. No.
All right. First was a big DTC push, thinking that since people have been fueled and frustrated by the 3-tier distribution center, the system, that people are just going to go more towards DTC.
Yeah, swing and a miss. No, I think there's been traction on that, and I think that's going to be a big push into this year as well. But as Blake was mentioning about distribution, and because I think distributors and retailers, are finding it harder to just bring in products and sit in inventory, and it's like there's got to be an outlet to find consumers and meet them with the products that they want, and the old model is not working. So I don't know. I feel good about that one.
Okay. All right. What about this one? The Tennessee bourbon recognition. Hope for increased respect for Tennessee bourbon beyond the big names of like Jack Daniels and Dickel.
Yeah, that probably didn't happen, but
I love the honesty.
Yeah. Hey, some people said our episode 63 was the best bourbon of the year. We mistakenly didn't submit it to a lot of awards because I don't think it's fair to put single barrels in, but that was dumb on us. And that was a Tennessee bourbon.
It was delicious.
Well, you can enter those single barrel categories. You just got to enter single barrel. You just won't be up for best in show. That's how most of them are. And that's how it should be. Single barrels should not be considered for like best in show stuff.
I agree. Well, speaking on the Tennessee side, other thing that you thought was that Uncle Nearest could be acquired by a large player like Brown-Forman due to its wide appeal and significant investment. But on the flip side, I think Brown-Forman actually shaved off a brand or two this year with either, I think it was a vodka brand or something like that too.
Yeah, Uncle Nearest has got more private equity, and so they're just they're on fire. They're just Fawn Weaver's taking that thing to levels I never thought could imagine. It makes sense, but yeah, that they're their own thing now. They don't need anyone, I don't think.
They started a tequila brand this year, is your prediction, right?
Might as well. They already have the cognac brand now, and the vodka.
He didn't get that, Blake. That reference.
Yeah, that's a reference to the social media. That did.
Yeah, sorry.
And it went so viral.
The funny thing is, I thought about doing that exact same post many of times, but I wasn't the person that could do it. Fawn Weaver, though, was. I thought that was great on her part.
Glad she did it instead of you, Ryan.
Well, I don't think I would have got as much attention as she did because I'm just a peon here in Louisville, Kentucky. But she's Fawn Weaver.
Also, you throw a punch at Fawn Weaver on social media, she's going to hit you back with a jab and an uppercut and like knock you the fuck out. She's just so good. They're like, I read through the comments. I'm like, she owned everybody. Like anybody that came at her, she was like on top of it. But she, like you said, Salt Spreader, she's Fawn Weaver. I think she is. I think she's the most influential executive in all of spirits in the pop culture sense. Not saying in the most influential in the entire industry, but I'm saying she can go across the aisle and and hang out with whatever celebrity she wants. That's how big she is.
All right, you have another one, but we'll kind of save it because I think it'll probably flow into 2025 predictions. We'll go with mine here. My predictions for 2024 was that I thought Penelope's Bourbon's growth, it would actually double in size considering of what just happened, and they would probably be bigger than we thought of before. I still think maybe not like double I think they're bigger. The fact that people were driving across the country for their releases of their their BTEC competition kind of goes to show you that I think they've gained massive fanfare beyond just their Valencia or whatever. So this reserve series is a whole new level for them. So I think I'll go ahead and take a point there.
They didn't double. I think I read where they grew about 19% though this year. So
here we go, 19%. That's still pretty good.
We'll give you 19%.
Give you 19% of a point then. All right.
yeah.
The other one was that there'd be a return of more decanter style bottles. Kind of inspired by brands like Old Fitzgerald. I don't really think we saw a ton of those happen this year either, unless somebody that got more bottles than me can attest to. Nope.
Yeah, I can't recall any. No.
I guess custom glass is expensive, so nobody's just going to be coming off with one-offs. Instead, people just take that regular wine label or regular wine bottle, and they just put a new, should I say, an old label on it instead. And my wild prediction that obviously did not happen was Harlan Wheatley was going to depart Buffalo Trace and start his own venture. Did not happen.
Well, how do you know that your prediction did not lead to the folks from Sazerac going in and giving him a raise?
See, that could have been. I didn't even know he got a raise. How did you know that?
Yeah, I'm just assuming he got a raise.
Oh,
okay. Fred does his taxes, so he
yeah. Dude, speaking of power, I mean, that guy doesn't give two shits about what anybody here thinks, and he's churning out the whiskey that everybody wants hand over fist. So I would think that he's kept the executives at Sazerac very happy, and if they haven't taken care of Harlan Wheatley, then they're idiots.
They're taking care of him, so I think we got that going. All right, you guys ready for the next half of the show? Talking about what our 2025 predictions are. Who wants to jump in and take the reins?
Ooh, I guess I can go first because I like to be wrong. I'm going to say that someone from the Big Six is going to invest in a cannabis company or create a cannabis style RTD or something, like to compete with like Moonwater or something, just to get a piece of the cannabis market. Because as we talked about earlier, alcohol's down. Younger people are happily taking gummies and vapes and cannabis drinks. So I think they're going to try to diversify and hit in the cannabis market.
Hey, Brian, legally, is there any restrictions there, like any tied house laws or anything like that would keep alcohol companies from getting into weed?
Well, I don't know about. I don't think tied house would come in, but gosh, it's a regulatory nightmare when you start adding those two things together. We're already so heavily regulated, and then you add the whole cannabis side to it. That's got to be complicated. But I kind of like the idea here. It's just the way the trends are going, and shit, you have some Chardonnay sometimes it tastes like it's already got weed in it.
Yeah.
This is
1,000%. Yeah, I'm
So,
not saying like Jack Daniels is going to come out. Jack Daniels, Lynchburg, whatever, lavender haze weed, but not lavender haze, whatever. But anyways, Yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking for. But I think they'll invest in
Purple
another company
haze.
that
Yes.
can do it.
Yeah, it'll be someone else's brand, but they'll be a 45% owner, and they'll can it somewhere else, but they'll have their foot in the door.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I was gonna say. It's like whatever they did, they would do it overseas. They wouldn't do it here in this country. They would do it, in Denmark or something, and maybe have it available and duty free in certain places. But I do know this: the the getting the THC right, like, or whatever, getting the components right, like if they get it wrong, like it can be like super deadly. There was a guy that did an article on this a long time ago about this craze of cannabis cocktails, and David Wondrich and like the old school cocktail guard just like tore him to shreds. And like if you get too much in there, and the alcohol component can be deadly. So I think that's the part where if they screw that up, they can screw a whole lot up for the industry.
I didn't want to break the news of Seal Blunts coming out in 2025 tonight, but I figured I might as well go. No, just kidding. No plans for that. But I do think you'll see some it's real big Canada, multiple states in the Midwest. I wouldn't be shocked at all if one of the major players got into that. So yeah.
I mean, can we make like a Seal Blunts batch or something like that? Like there's so many good opportunities there.
I mean, the pre-sales just sold out already. Just right now, the pre-sales are
now that I'm thinking about it, in Florida, we turned it down. We decided it's not for us. We're not going to make it recreational because I don't know. Who knows? As somebody who doesn't even smoke weed, I'm still like, really, this is what we're what we're fighting against. But maybe head to Michigan or Illinois and start up shop there. Could be onto something.
All right, Ryan, that's a good one. You got any other ones up your sleeve?
I did, but I guess since I predicted in 2024, I shouldn't predict in 2025 with the DTC. I do think there's just going to be more traction, more movement with it. Even from, I think the distributors and retailers are going to be a part of it, just because I think they need to find ways to reach consumers and manage inventories better. I don't know. I just think I think there's going to be more acceptance and more opportunities for people that jump into it. But I'm probably wrong since it was last year.
No, for somebody that's been trying to live this for the past 3 weeks of evaluating different kinds of platforms, there's obviously an opportunity for a distributor to come in to ease the burden of something like this. But right now, it's everybody basically trying to build bridges and put band-aids and duct tape together to make a system work. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll jump. I'm going to be positive this year. So I predict we've all heard of IJW. They're sitting on maybe 100,000 barrels now. Nobody exactly knows. They've got a Japanese distillery. They started a tequila brand, but we really haven't seen their bourbon come out. It's come out in a few brands. I think Puncher's Chance used IJW. I think this is going to be the year of where IJW reveals their evil genius plans here, and we're going to start seeing their own brand come out. We're going to start seeing on-site selections with them. They're just going to hit the market hard is my prediction. And they had to have been saving up for this. They're saving up for something. I think they hit now. Well, there's a slight depression in the market, and try to swing it up.
It's not a bad guess. To be completely transparent, we bought a few barrels from IJW ourselves, and I mean they're up to 6-7 years old already. Yeah. So I wouldn't discount it. I think they are under the same kind of, I wouldn't say they haven't really had a whole lot of effort being pushed into creating their own brands. A lot of their back end processes are supplying for other brands. I'm not going to talk too much because I don't want to break any NDAs or anything, but I would be interested to see exactly what happens. You're right. They are sitting on a whole lot of liquid, plus opening up a lot of distilleries as well.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to have pressure for having that many barrels with what's
Well-
happened in the bulk market. They gotta do something with it.
And there's brands out there already that I'm not at liberty to say, but there's plenty out there that IJW's been a part of.
So Kenny and Ryan, are you all getting approached by them? Are you all on an NDA with them?
More of a friendly NDA, right? It's one of those things that's like we haven't really discussed what we can or can't say, but we know the players in the company, and we've talked to them, bought some barrels off them for some other projects we have up our sleeves. But we
so
know
you guys, so you all know the juicy scoop. What's really going on there? Then that's what I'm.
Well, your NDAs weren't whiskey focused, were they? They were about something else that you had NDAs.
They were about seal blunts.
Yeah, I mean they have a really impressive library of aged spirits. I mean they got some really good whiskey, to be quite honest. And they got a lot of it. It is Brian. It makes perfect sense because they are going to have to use it somehow.
Good whiskey, and I don't think people realize the team they've built out over there and how impressive it is. It's like people from top tier positions at every top tier distillery in Kentucky is now over there. So kind of hate that I didn't think about that one, but I think that'll be a name that we'll hear a lot more of in 2025.
I'll say too, like it's probably one of the most impressive jobs I've ever seen anyone in the spirits business of just making the product and being quiet about it. Like you generally like have people going out to trade events and talking up what they're doing, seeing each other at dinner, talking about what they're doing. Those guys really don't talk about what they do. They don't talk about who they work
amazing.
with. It's kind of they must get paid really, really well in order to because Kentucky distillers have some of the biggest, loose lips that are out there. Like they'll tell you everything, they have no problems usually talking shit on their employers. So it's crazy to me. Like I've never heard anything negative coming out of that house.
I like it, Brian. What else you got?
The other thing I'm thinking through, and I don't know if there's anything right to this, and you mentioned it at the top, with tariffs. My memory of when we got the punitive, retaliatory, whatever you want to call it, tariffs back on Kentucky bourbon was that it was tied to Mitch McConnell. So I'm wondering if with him out as majority speaker, do we have that target on our back, or are we so American that it's really wasn't Mitch McConnell? It was just because it's what the world identifies Kentucky for. So I don't know what tariffs Trump is going to put on anyone or what kind of retaliation we get, but there's a chance we don't get hit as hard as we did the first time around because no Mitch.
Yeah, I think it depends on what he hits too. Florida will be hit, like oranges will be hit. That's going to happen. Like that's always going to happen because it's a swing state. But because bourbon is a unique product of the United States, it makes it a much easier target. So like when they're going down through the list of goods of things that would impact us over, say, electronics, like so if China were to I don't some kind of like software or some kind of like hard drive or something that we make, we're probably getting the materials from China or Taiwan as it is, so they're gonna they're not going to want to hit us there. So I would say bourbon will probably still be on the chopping block, but it depends on who we go after. Things like steel, lumber, and oranges, I think, would come before bourbon. But
I think social media platforms will come under Meta with Instagram and Facebook. That's where I would be concerned.
Well, also X too. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
X.
you've got Elon Musk out there basically going to war, verbally, against the United Kingdom over, um, over how they are trying to put people in jail for what they say on social media, and like how they at the same time are hiding some of their criminal activity in their own public records. So I think, yeah, I mean, social media. How do you tax? I mean, how do you tariff social media though? Like maybe like how Apple has done it, but you know everything still has to go through a platform. And Kenny, you would know better than anybody.
Well, like ad
Can a,
revenue and stuff, back to the company, they can tax it more.
yeah,
I don't care. Like we keep talking about it, doesn't matter who pays for it at the end.
us,
Yeah, it's the consumer. Like,
yeah.
so it doesn't really matter. You can tax and tariff whatever you want. You can tax bourbon all you want. It doesn't matter. It's going to end up raising prices on the shelf. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, when it comes to the tariffs, and look, I covered that inside out. I know that stuff historically, and what I was convinced that the tariffs were really going to be bad for bourbon. But what we saw was distillers kind of got their heads out of their asses and started focusing on South Dakota and Boise, Idaho, instead of trying to open up Poland. And when they did that, they really ingratiated the domestic market. I don't think tariffs will be as impactful because you don't have brands like Catoctin Creek anymore who are looking at international sales as powerful as they once were. Like now, they have seen that Poland is not going to be drinking American whiskey, so they're just saying, "Fuck that. We're going to focus on South Dakota, Boise, Idaho, Akron, Ohio, places like that." So I think people are a little bit more strategic about it. I don't, even if the tariffs come, I don't think it's going to hurt us unless, you know, unless it hits Japan. Like if it hits Japan, Australia. I mean, I would even say like there's a lot of effort for India right now. There's a lot of effort for China. But it's effort. It's not actual on the ground happening. People are trying to make it work, and I think it will work. And I just had an executive from India, an import company, want to bring me out and talk about American whiskey there. Like India is coming full fledged for American whiskey in the next 5 years. So I think that as long as India doesn't have any penalties to it, the tariffs won't be as impactful as they were before, except for Jack Daniels.
Yeah. Well, Fred, what kind of predictions you got?
Oh man, I don't really know. I'm not going to bring up the Four Roses thing again. I think I think
it's implied at this point. It's implied.
Yeah, now it's just implied. And if it happens,
this is now going to be the year that it happened.
and if it happens, I can be like, "See, I told you." So here's my prediction, and it's something that's happening now. It's been brewing for a while. I think that this Federal Trade Commission lawsuit with Southern Glaciers, I think it's going to reveal a lot of stuff about the industry, and I think that we're going to have a new grouping of government regulations that used to be a part of the books. I think there's going to be a return of a lot of advertising regulations and price control regulations, and some of those things never went away. I think you're going to see a lot more enforcement on stuff that's that used to be enforced regularly. So like if a brand like I've counted not too long ago, there are 15 brands that claim that they are the most awarded American whiskey. 15. So I think that they're probably going to see a return of the federal government coming up and saying like, okay, prove to us that you are the most awarded entity, because that's going to be low hanging fruit for the distribution companies saying like, because what's going to happen is the Federal Trade Commission is going to get their teeth into the distributors, and the distributors are going to start plucking off little bitty things here and there that they can point to the suppliers and say, it's not actually our fault, it's the supplier's fault. And so I think there's going to be a tightening of what the distillers say and can say and stuff like that, just to take a little heat off of the distribution game. All the while, I think it opens up direct to consumer, sales. I think that the wholesale industry, is facing a lot of challenges with these federal lawsuits, and I don't think it's good for anybody in the business. But it's going to bring out a lot of changes and bring back some old regs that were on the books prior to the deregulation of the Reagan administration.
Honestly, the whole Ryan and I, we talked about this at length on This Week in Bourbon when it comes to the Southern Glaciers and FTC thing. And I don't know if they are going to uncover something. I think it has to be more than just giving a better price to somebody because they buy more in quantity. That's the same exact reason that we have Costco memberships, the same exact reason why any business, why you give a little bit of discount to somebody that buys in bulk versus buying little by little. I don't know.
But your potatoes and your cereal is not a it's not as it's not regulated like alcohol is, and you've got those laws that say you can't sell below wholesale, right? And that's in every state. Like if you catch, you're a supplier, Kenny. If you catch a retailer supplying under wholesale, you got to tell your distributor, and the distributor's got to report that or deal with it. So there's a lot of stuff that like that happens, and that's going to be there's when Brian can speak to this better than anybody, but when you have a lawsuit, it's not necessarily the point of the lawsuit that can make waves, it's the discovery. And I'm saying that in the discovery of this case, a lot of dirty stuff is going to come out on the spirits industry, and that is going to lead to all sorts of really small, low-hanging fruit things to be handled, such as the federal government sending out a simple email to the 15 American whiskey brands claiming they're the most awarded, or the 3 different brands that are claiming they're the best selling. That's the sort of little bitty things that I think that will get cleaned up.
I like that, as long as it's not, oh, you gave somebody a discount. I'm fine with that. Anybody else have any kind of follow-on thoughts? We're creeping up on time.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree primarily with Fred on that, where it's like it's not about what they said the lawsuit or whatever they even call it at this point is about, because it's more about the discovery. Like giving discounts, they can give discounts for a reason. That's what they're attacking, but there's a lot going on with different companies. At the end of the day, I think it's all going to get thrown out because the guy with the FCC who dissented against it is now the new Trump appointee. So without getting too political, I think all that's going to get thrown out. But I think the distributors in general are scrambling a little bit, not because of this kind of stuff, just because nobody knows where the market's really going. If you look in total overall sales, whiskey's still going up. It's driven predominantly, this leans into my prediction a little bit, but I think we're going to see a lot more flavored whiskey, and I think we're going to see a lot more DTC, or excuse me, like canned cocktail stuff that will start popping up on the market because that's what people are drinking. I think somebody put it in the chat of like, oh, we're going to reduce the proof of bourbon. It doesn't have to be 80% to try to cater to this market. I think that's just going to come in the RTD market where we say, here's your bourbon and soda, here's your whatever it is. And that's how we're going to attack that market. It's not going to be like whenever light whiskey popped up in the 60s and 70s to try to get the gin and vodka drinking crowd to then make a martini with it. I think we're just going to see a lot of whiskey RTDs in 2025. That's my prediction, that I think could come true just because of where everything's going. One, it's simple, it's easy. All of us would even drink a really good bourbon RTD. but also it brings in a crowd who may not want something that's high proof. They want to sip on a can that's 3% alcohol, and you couldn't get drunk on it if you tried.
Blake, can I just say how proud I am of you properly citing the light whiskey craze of the 60s and 70s? I'm just, I'm very proud of you. That's like
I read a book
who's-
on it. I read a book on it once.
You've
and,
actually read Brian and I. You've read our work, and that's exciting to me. That's
along
awesome.
the way, I pick up a few things here and there.
I like that prediction. Oh, go ahead, Fred. Sorry.
Yeah, he's spot on. I mean, I'll add to that. I think that the ABCs, I think the ABC trend of them cracking down on their local markets is going to continue. And for whatever reason, the Kentucky ABC is really, ripping apart people who have vintage products. So I think that this government oversight into this space is going to continue. And it's not that, I mean, we're 2 months removed from some guy in Ohio introducing a law that you have to crack open the bottle of bourbon as you leave. And so I just think that people in government, whether they have litigation power or whether they are lawmakers or they're they're part of a regulatory body, I just think we're starting to see a lot more people want to get their hands on distillers, retailers, distributors. This is where we are right now, and I think it's going to get worse. Some of it will come out and be good and make a brand prove that they are indeed the best-selling bourbon or the most awarded bourbon, and some of it's going to be bad. I don't know what that's going to be. I just know that there's going to be a lot more government outreach and interference within this community.
Okay. I do like the low proof. As Blake was, when I was in New Mexico doing some market work, I was at this store and they said, I was like, "What's your number one seller right now?" And they're like, "We cannot keep in this like flavored baijiu, like it's selling like crazy because it's like 40 proof. It was like $15 a bottle." He's like, "All the young kids want low proof flavored stuff," and I was like, "Really?" And New Mexico is kind of this like hipster new wave SoCal kind of like vibe. So like, I think maybe you're onto something that. The younger generation
comes in like a screw cap, green bottle, and
it is, yes.
Flies. Yeah.
Baijiu is crazy. It's that Chinese spirit, but the flavored baijiu I can see going really well with some of those New Mexico dishes there. But that's wild. I don't think that it'll in the state. I don't think it can ever go below 80 proof. I think that would get fought too hard. I think that would be on the same level as like used cooperage being introduced into bourbon. I mean, it could happen, but man, I think there would be a fierce fight against it. However, in Australia and New Zealand, if you go there, because they negotiated in their free trade agreement with us, you can actually get bourbon for 74 proof in Australia.
What's crazy about all this government regulation and whatnot is like, correct me if I'm wrong, like alcohol excise tax is one of the like number one revenue sources for the federal government. It's like, so do they bite the hand that feeds them, in that regard?
Well, it used to be until they created the personal income tax.
I'm saying outside of the personal income tax.
Yeah. I mean, alcohol is a like top 25 of the revenue generators, but it's on the lower side. Tech is huge. I mean, I think tech is the number one, but there's been a lot of things that have surpassed alcohol, but it used to be, I mean, this used to be how we built our roads and everything. It really was. And then prohibition happened and they introduced a personal income tax. So fuck that shit.
All right. Who's got another?
All tax is theft from Fred Minnick. There you had it.
All right. Fred, do you have another one before we jump to somebody else?
I'll go. You got one, friend?
I could always pull one out of my ass, but no, I don't have anything else prepared. I mean, if you want me to come up with something on the fly, I can.
No. I got a few as well. So Eric, you go.
Eric's
Okay.
the man. Let's give it to him.
All right, let me see what we saw a lot. MGP do some stuff at the end of last year, saying they're going to pull back production, sell less of their stuff to non-distiller producers, stuff like that. So I guess I have kind of a three-part thing with MGP, where one is they're going to come out with a brand new brand outside of what they have now, just created in-house. These aren't barn burner predictions here, but I definitely can see them finally coming out with a new brand that they didn't buy. But that also goes into part of the other prediction is, we've talked about this on other episodes. You would think they would buy another brand and spin that off into their thing. So if they're going to start focusing more on their own brand, their own production, their own company, instead of selling so much of their stuff off, it seems like it would make sense to pull in another brand, create a new brand in-house. And then I think finally too, bring in Penelope's Mike Palladini, bring him in. I think he's just going to keep rising in that company and eventually take over, because, we've seen, if I'm remembering this correctly, their CEO from 2023 retired, and then they brought in another guy, and then David, I think then he retired basically within a year. So then they have another guy coming in, Brandon Gale. I think he's coming in right now to take over. So, if they're going to follow their own history here, he could potentially be out another year, and then we'll see what goes on with Mike.
I don't know. MGP is, whiskey is just one facet of their entire portfolio. I mean, that's, they do perfumes and oils and grains, and I don't know if that's Mike's strong suit. I've hung out with him enough to get, like I don't. Not to say I don't trust the guy, but I don't know. I think that's a huge role for somebody. Like
I don't know. It sounds like you don't trust him, Kenny.
I'm just saying.
I mean, I would say
anyone who says I don't trust the guy.
I love the guy.
You got to steer the ship.
He completely surprised me. But when I look at the business model of MGP, Mike, but you're right. Mike came from selling mattresses to selling whiskey to where he is today, and it could easily shift into something where he knows how to deal with a major production manufacturing facility. Who knows?
I like the prediction of them coming out with another in-house brand, because it doesn't seem like they can get traction with Remus or the Squib stuff or whatever. It just seems. If you look at their portfolio, like the only thing that's doing well is Penelope, and like Ezra Brooks is doing okay. Everything else is kind of just not doing well. So I could see that, but I also, with an MGP prediction, I could see them going from a publicly traded company back to a privately owned company. I think things are just going to get worse and worse for them, and
there's been a lot of drama there.
I think it's a shitstorm that's unrecoverable, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But that's just
reading
into what public information you can read on them, because they're publicly traded.
You talk to anybody who manages a publicly traded company, and you're like, why the fuck would you do this? Like, it's a never ending thing. MGP, if you take a look at the whiskey that's out there that people are building brands on, even though Bardstown Bourbon Company has done a great job of competing in that market, it's still MGP. If Mike Hines from Nashville Barrel Company has an opportunity to buy a bunch of barrels of MGP, or he can just buy like a lot of Kentucky bourbon, I don't know which way he's going. I would say he'd probably go with MGP. And same with so many other brands like that, like Smoke Wagon built his entire everything on MGP. I just don't understand. I just don't understand why they don't get back to that business. You keep your little brand, keep your brands, do your thing, but man, really focus on the Smoke Wagons and people like that, because once you lose Smoke Wagon, once you lose like those kinds of brands, I mean, yeah, great. You acquired Penelope. But once you lose those to like Southern Distilling or Middle West or whoever, that's going to hurt you more than Remus not taking off. And I would just say, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the insides of their companies, although I've worked with them. I've done barrel picks with them. They've done some of my events. I did a whole blind bourbon thing in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, where I just tasted their portfolio, and they were very helpful with me on that. But I don't know the insides of their company. I don't know where their problems are and everything. I just get an occasional news release of somebody suing a shareholder suing them. And I mean, I think Eric is spot on that they've got a problem, and then they've got a talented dude like Michael that could come in and really help mend a lot of the issues. I really like that prediction, Eric, and I know he may not have the chops. He may not be coming from a Brown Foreman pedigree, but sometimes you don't need that, man. I think in this business more than any other business, and it does not matter how big they are, I think you need an entrepreneurial spirit. You need to pull up your bootstraps and just get shit done. And, they've got one of the greatest like advisors / someone who's been there, done that, and Don Lux that could help him. I would love to see Michael get a huge role in MGP. That'd be pretty awesome, actually.
I certainly think that he could be the equivalent of what Cave is for Pernod, where it's like director of American whiskey for the company, right? I certainly do think that that's probably a really good role for somebody like him.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a good.
All right, I got a couple more predictions, but sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Blake, you can't be. Listen, Blake, that's rude. You cannot cut off Ryan like that. He's the salt spreader.
His mic was on mute. When I started talking.
Yeah, I think Mike's he's so personable, great with the public. I think he's a great face. I think it would be good for them. I think just from their business model, it's like, okay, being a publicly traded company, you have to show growth every year, to keep your stock rising. And they had got, the timing was perfect where contract distillation was booming, brands were sourcing like crazy. Then you have a dip, and it's like, I just don't know, looking into the future, like, okay, how do you fill that void that you've lost over the past 2 or 3 years of contract distillation? Yeah, you have your smoke wagons and you have that, but I mean, how many more MGP brands can there be that are sourced MGP brands and have a differentiator? And it's like, that you've named off some fantastic ones, and they do a great job. But how is somebody new going to come in and say we can outcompete them with the same exact whiskey? And I think that's
you say it all the time, Ryan. You do it jokingly, and you too. I think in a way is a fault. Like, will not consider using MGP in your own blends because everybody uses it. Everyone's doing it all the time. But like I have seen. I mean, I've seen 30 brands come and go using MGP whiskey. They start, they go away, and then someone else comes and replaces because they didn't buy enough, or the barrels got too expensive, or they didn't have the capital, they didn't have the right plant, whatever. Those brands come and go, but the fact is there's always somebody wanting that whiskey. Always. And I guarantee you,
I agree. It's great.
If Blake had a chance for 15-year-old Indiana bourbon, he would take it.
I don't disagree. It's amazing, credible product. Where I realized that, okay, it's going to be tough now is that when distributors and you go to retailers as a sourced whiskey brand, their first question is this another MGP? And that's the reality of it now. It's like, you're just another MGP, and that you have no unique selling proposition at that point. Like, because there are such stable brands with, that've been doing MGP for so long, that it's like, how, as a new entry, can you, unless you're flavoring it, doing something, and there's no finish that can make it different from anywhere else, it's like, how can you differentiate yourself as a whiskey company with MGP these days?
I guess I'm putting it in
So,
the light of like if I'm buying barrels, if I'm trying to start an NDP, and I have an opportunity to either buy MGP, and I can taste them and I can choose what I want, like Smoke Eye Hill did, and they did their own, or I could just get a truckload of Kentucky bourbon barrels that I don't know what they are, but I get them and it says Kentucky bourbon on them. Or I could go with Middle West. Let's say they're in that market, in Ohio. I go with them. I'm probably going with the MGP route because I feel like I'd have a better chance of success. And in the case of Smoke Eye Hill, they won, the ASCOT Awards, and they damn near won San Francisco. Everybody who's tasted, and they've been on several lists for best bourbon of the year. And I just think you just see it time and time again. There's a new one of these, and they pop. And that distributor conversation that they have, those distributors are taking them when they find out they were that close to winning San Francisco, or they won another major competition, or Men's Journal said they were the number 8 bourbon of the year. Like, I just think that MGP is putting out such great whiskey for these non-distiller producers to bottle, and someone like Michael could come in and solve so many problems because he comes from that space. Give him a greater role at MGP, and I think, as Eric says, there's a lot of problems that get solved. Now, in terms of you blending with it, it's never going to happen. I know it, but you're such a talented
Never
blender.
say never.
And the thing is, Ryan, is you're such a talented blender. Like, I would love to see what you would do with it. I really would. I'd love to see you play around with some MGP, with some New York stuff or Kansas or wherever, because you like to get funky. But I think you could do some cool stuff, man.
Kansas?
Well, I appreciate
Little
that.
Jay Riger action, maybe.
Union horses.
That here? Okay. There we go. All right, Eric, give us another one. We beat that one to death.
All right. I got a few. I could
Get
do some
one
short ones, but yeah, one more. Let's see. I'm thinking less barrel proof. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but less barrel proof bourbons. I just feel like there's, I don't know. I know the enthusiast crowd, a lot of us that are watching this, listening to this right now, we love the barrel proof. We want to buy expensive, limited editions need to be high proof, and that's what sells, because then you got like Old Granddad 16-year that came out for $200, and everyone's just like, I don't want that. That's too low proof. But I think overall, I see, and maybe it won't be this year, maybe it'll be moving forward. I just see in my own interactions with people that I have come over and drink, nobody wants barrel proof. And maybe it's a situation where, yeah, I'm sitting around with people and we're drinking multiples, and nobody wants to drink multiple barrel proofs at a time. But the grand and the larger picture of bourbon, I feel like high barrel proof, the hazmat stuff, it's I don't know if it's starting to get played out or not. I just see a move away from that. I don't know what the magic number would be, but I had a tasting the other night with people that drink whiskey. They do like Scotch too, so that might account for it. But they couldn't handle anything over 100 proof, and they drink and everything. But that was the kind of threshold I saw myself having to pick from all these bottles. It's like, all right, what is something that's unique, special, that's 100 proof, and that is hard to find sometimes. So I think there is a play for some brands to do some interesting things with 100 proof or less. I'll leave it as that.
I'm not opposed to it. Blake, you want to chime in with that little nugget we talked about on the phone the other day?
Hold on, what did we talk about? I had another one primed up for a prediction. I'm going to say this prediction because I'm going to forget it, and then I'll go back to our phone conversation that I don't remember. I want to get more pointed with my predictions this year. That's another prediction I'm going to have. But I think Heaven Hill is going to bring back Elijah Craig 12-year. If they don't, I think there's going to be more age-stated stuff on the market in 2025. That's where I think we're going. I think there's a lot of great stuff out there. I think some brands putting out a 15-year-old bourbon that I heard is amazing. And no, but so I do think age statements will start coming back because people need something to anchor themselves on, and if it's not going to be proof, age statement's a good one to do that with. And so I think Heaven Hill bringing back Elijah Craig 12-year would be a great one to do that. And then what did we talk about the other day?
Well, let's stay on that because I mean, we could just talk about it because anybody that you put hazmat on anything, people buy it up, and it doesn't
Oh,
really
yeah.
matter.
Anything hazmat is gone immediately. I think, Eric, y'all did something on the World of Whiskeys where they had like the 162 proof. Um, yeah, that one was crazy. I mean, I won't lie, we're buying some light whiskey and some Canadian whiskey that's super high in proof, and anything hazmat right now is just flying off the shelves, which is the exact opposite of my earlier prediction of stuff going to RTDs and lower proof in a can, that kind of stuff. But the whiskey enthusiast, we all love the hazmat, and I don't know. It's fun, but something at 139.9 proof is going to sell way less than something at 140.1. And why, we don't know, but we like it and we want to buy it. So that's a fun one.
And then to talk about the age statement thing there, one brand I feel that has truly made a comeback with it, obviously, is in the Beam portfolio. You see Knob Creek coming out with everything, putting 9-year back on their age statement. They've had the 15-year, they've had the 12-year, and obviously they brought the Old Crow, or sorry, not Old Crow, the Old Grand
Yeah.
16-year.
Jim Beam doesn't give two shits about Old Crow. Let's be very clear about that. So don't.
You want to make another prediction? Maybe this is.
I
the
made
year
that
Old Crow.
prediction 5 years ago. Is they're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
do something with Old Crow, and they don't.
Actually, my book is due Wednesday, and it's all about that. So like, I'm way too invested in Old Crow. So I was looking for tonight to be like a nice breakaway from writing that book, but
will they
yeah.
sell the Old Crow label? That could be a good 2025 prediction. Beam
No,
sells the Old
but
Crow
the
label.
thing is, it's still a top 20 brand. It's the drink that it's the drink that people who really like bourbon, but they can't always afford Knob Creek. It still sells. The crazy thing is about these age statements is like I took these when Elijah Craig dropped that 12-year-old statement, Blake, I took it personally. I would say I took it way too personally. And it was really kind of a lesson in my career of like, if I'm going to do this, I can't take things that I like personally and take it out on the brand, because I wouldn't review an Elijah Craig for like 2 years after that. And I did not drink the new Elijah Craig until like 2 or 3 years after they dropped the age statement. And I'm like, I started realizing when Bernie Lubber says that, he would say one thing and the next time he would say it's like it's not a charity, it's the bourbon business. And I started lightening up after that. But the truth is, Jim Beam has done a better job than anybody of making sure age statements are there, because I don't care what anyone says, age statements matter. Age statements give us an idea of what we're about to taste. And you see all these labels coming out with mash bills and all this stuff, and it's awesome. I love the transparency, but at the very basic core of whiskey transparency is an age statement. And so I have nothing but applause and kudos to Jim Beam for bringing back those age statements. Like in Knob Creek 9-year-old, that's a hard one to beat, for the money. It's good.
All right, I got 2 of them I'll throw out, and these ones probably aren't pointed at a particular bourbon or to consumer side or anything like that. I think it's one of the things that we've seen in the rise of social media in certainly the past couple of years. Obviously, I feel that TikTok is now the largest social media platform out there. You can look at it up. TikTok will have a bigger influence than any other social media platform going to 2025. We saw earlier this year that TikTok now allows alcohol brands to start advertising there, And this is going to be more of a way that the influencers on TikTok will be more important than any influencer on any other platform. So we'll see how that happens. Now, I think YouTube, it's not social media. That's a completely different thing. But when you look at Instagram versus Facebook versus TikTok versus X versus whatever, I still think TikTok is it's gonna completely rule the world, and that is gonna be the place that people are gonna go. And I think it just has more pull of greater people that are able to get that are able to see it. That's how things go viral first, is you see it on TikTok first. And so I think
is it gonna survive the U.S. effort to ban it here?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Kenny, real quick after the show, could you show me how to get a TikTok? Is that
Yeah.
Or
It took me long enough to get an Instagram. I don't know if I can get a TikTok.
It's tough. I mean, it truly is to do video content. Ryan knows the best right now. He's on a social media blitz right now on the Pursuit side and posting everything there. But I mean, video content is hard. However, it is the most addictive form of it. And you see everybody on TikTok that does it well, they are getting way more follows, way more engagement, way more views than anything you're going to get on Instagram.
I will
It's
say
true.
the amount of like leverage that you can go viral on TikTok versus any other platform is way higher. Like I mean, this is multiple years ago now, but I mean, even y'all's ice video that you did, that was like 50, 70 million views. Like that just does not happen on other platforms. And um it's that first fire that I think happens and sparks everything else. So um I'll agree with that one.
I got on TikTok the other day, and I was like, "Oh, should not have got on TikTok." I'm at a I get
It matters
I
who you
get
follow, Fred.
what's that?
I said it matters who you follow too.
No,
So,
no, it was a bunch of reaction videos to my top 100. That's what it was, and I was like, oh, I started reading the comments. I was like, okay, all right. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna check on out of here and go to my good friends over in the Bourbon Community Roundtable and comment there in our little group chat. So that's what I did. But TikTok
Come
is
back to your safe
interesting.
space, right?
When we look, so in evaluating in evaluating at the levels of like education and consumers for the social media groups, there was YouTube is the highest, but like you said, Kenny, it's not TikTok. To me, YouTube is TV now. YouTube is like has replaced magazines, and has replaced books. It's replaced blogs. I mean, that's the key source for information. I think Instagram is Instagram, Bourbon is kind of like, I don't know where it's at right now.
I feel like it's in its own echo chamber.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It really is
weird. I mean, it's like you post there, and it's the same people that post on everybody else's posts, and I'm kind of like, all right, you don't get any. It doesn't never feel like there's any outside engagement there anymore.
And the big thing is that the people who don't know shit are no longer getting rewarded. And I feel like TikTok there's a high level of education there, and it's coming in like 3 to 5 second bits. Like I get on there and I understand, like, I get made fun of a lot. My stuff gets called out a lot. I would be calling myself out too if I wasn't me. But the truth is, I do this for a living. I've been doing it for next year will be actually 20 years in December. So I've been doing this for like 2 decades now, and I look for things for like, what are people questioning? What are they looking for? And TikTok to me has one of the highest levels of like curiosity. Of they're curious. Instagram seems to be like they want people to like them. TikTok, people are curious. Reddit, to me, Reddit is still the king of knowledge for bourbon. You get in there, you read some of those reviews. Very good reviewers in Reddit. Facebook, I don't even know what the fuck bourbon Facebook is anymore. Like every group I ever loved is gone, and X is just like I don't know what Bourbon X is right now, but I do think TikTok has a high level of curiosity, and I have no problems with me being, dinged up here and there. That's I get to drink bourbon for a living, so
we'll say Matt Cusick, he still keeps Bourbon X alive over there too, so we'll give him a shout out.
Yeah, he does. He does a good job over there.
All right, and my other prediction this year, and sorry, Ryan, if this is gonna hit you in the feels here. I expect now that we have ChatGPT and doing a lot of different things that we are going to have our first ever AI assisted distillation, blending, whatever it is, but used as a marketing angle coming in 2025.
That already exists, dude.
You can't
With
replace
whom?
Ryan.
What brand? What brand is using that as their marketing angle? Be like, we are the AI of whiskeys.
We let AI
I gotta
do everything.
Yeah, I got a press release on it not too long ago that somebody was using AI. Like, I don't know if an AI sent the press release, but they're like, I've received press releases about AI being used in production and everything, and I know other people who have.
All right, well then in bourbon, there you go. Somebody just said it was in. There's a Swede company that did it called McNamara, but I'm going to say there's somebody in bourbon that's going to do it this year.
Hey, I wouldn't be mad at it. It takes a lot of time. It saved me a lot of time.
Hey, Ryan, are you anti-AI?
No, I've been using it a lot on. I've been using Claude a lot for Instagram, and it's been helping a ton. I mean, I've used it the last 5 posts, and our reach is probably 5 to 6x since I started using Claude just to give ideas and putting hashtags and words to put in the post, and it works. So I'm not against it. Still think you need a human element, to be there, but it's smarter than us at figuring things out. So certain things, anyways. But blending. If it could give me a baseline to start, that'd be good, and then I can tweak it off there.
I like it. All right, well that's that one. Anybody else have one more to throw out there as we kind of close this thing out? Last chance. 3, 2.
I'll throw one out there. I'll throw one out there. I think that the whiskey community is experimenting with glassware, and I think that we're going to see some new glassware in the next year that will be that will change things up a little bit with how you taste.
AI designed.
Possibly. I mean, I don't think there's much happening right now, Brian, without AI. I mean, and we've had it for a long time. It's just now we're a little bit more open about what it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I would say drafting documents and engineering and legal things all have little touches of AI in them.
Oh, legal side, definitely they do. Absolutely.
Yeah. Legal side's had AI for 20 years, ever since Microsoft Word came out. They just copy and paste. No, I'm kidding.
Generative AI versus AI. Yeah, but people are getting in trouble in the legal field for using AI and its hallucinations and all that.
If there's one profession that can protect itself, it's you all, lawyers.
Well, yeah, I mean, we say lawyers have written in that we can't have non-competes for ourselves, and I mean, we take care of ourselves. Don't worry.
Very good. All right, let's go ahead and let's sort of wrap this up. So that is going to be a lot of stuff, but that is our review and try to say our predictions for 2025 after we reviewed our 2024 stuff that we mostly got wrong. I will be again throwing this into the AI engine. We'll see you guys all in 2026 and see what we got right and what we got wrong. But we'll go ahead
this on TikTok next year.
Yeah, we might be doing it at that point. True.
All right, Brian, go ahead. For it.
Brian, go ahead and close us out.
All right, thanks. I'm eager to see what happens in 2025. We hit our big milestone last year, and we're going to keep on trucking. That's my prediction. So cheers, everybody. Thanks.
Yep. And Blake.
Yeah, I was going to go with that same prediction of 12 episodes later of the Bourbon Community Roundtable, we'd still be going. So always fun to do these. I think this is like probably the 6th or 7th time we've tried to do predictions, and I don't think we've nailed one yet. So eventually, odds would say we'll get one. But always fun to get on here and talk about a lot of stuff. Felt like there was a lot of good conversation tonight. So thanks for having me, Blake from Sealbox.
Heck yeah. And Eric.
Yeah, I'm Eric from Breaking Bourbon. Always fun to be on here. I think it was 2 years ago I was on for one of these, and it was fun to kind of come up with a list and really thinking about bourbon in a future ways. But I hope some of mine are correct or they work out. But we'll see. We'll see in a year.
Yes, we'll see exactly what happens. Well, make sure you follow along with all our predictions and see what's going to happen. You can pay attention to everything happen on Bourbon Pursuit on all of our social channels. You can find us on all your podcast platforms as well. And also follow our good buddy Fred Minnick on over here at all his channels at Fred Minnick as well. But with that, cheers, everybody. Here's a 2025. Much whiskey in our future. So here we go. Off to you all. Cheers.
Toodles.
Dude, I had 4 bourbons on the show, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're feeling
cheers.
good then, aren't you?
Yeah. Are we still talking?
Yeah, we're still talking. By the way, Brian, TikTok can do up to an hour now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. You can do 60-minute videos on TikTok.
Like not as a
60-minute
live, but
videos on
actual-
TikTok.
Mhm.
So we could drop like full episodes over there then.
Yep.
Wow.
Forgive
I mean,
my ignorance. In there,
I don't think it's going to work. It's going to work well, but you can do it.
Forgive my ignorance. Isn't there a thing where TikTok can get shut down here soon?
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
going
It's getting shut down.
yeah. So what happened? So here's what I think happened. Like this has been a big move because there's a lot of Chinese ties to TikTok. That's pretty public, right? It's a Chinese company, right, Kenny? Like I'm
Yes.
not speaking out of turn here, but TikTok really carried young voters for this last election, and I think Trump is going to be like, oh wait, hold on now, y'all, we don't need to be getting rid of this TikTok thing.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's too big.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There's some interesting things about TikTok, but I will say the bourbon and I'm not on TikTok all that much, but the bourbon does seem to be very, very active, which is cool. And I mean, I think
Yeah, they're
even
very
Instagram, I mean,
curious.
I'm dead
Man,
serious.
like-
Guys, I'm like, go on there sometime and just scroll, and you'll go through the lives, and there'll be 7-8 people together on a live doing bourbon stuff, and it's like I've never heard of these. Like most of these people they don't have massive social followings yet, but it is starting to become a small community in itself that's growing. And so, I mean, I don't even know any of their names. You'll see like Bourbon Rom and Tom Knows Bourbon and all these other kind of handles, and they're doing reviews and stuff. And it's just, I mean, it's just growing rapidly over there.
I think it's great.
I
I
think-
think it's great.
I think that's happening in general. We ran into a little bit of that where a guy I liked on Instagram, where I liked what content he was doing. I was like, hey man, I want to see some bottles, this cool stuff. And it's just like him making dinner for the family, he put Sealbox bottles, and I had probably 7 or 8 people that are not into bourbon send me his Instagrams and say like, did you see this? But he started on TikTok, and I didn't realize like his bigger following was on TikTok, and I just saw him on Instagram. So I feel like there's a lot of that, like the interweaving of just the random like get ready with me lifestyle type of footage. I think that is, for better or worse, where the industry's growing and going. Like it's not just diehards anymore. It's people just, they want to have one drink after work, and they're going to follow a influencer, TikToker, or Instagram, or whatever it is, and that's what they're going to pick up for a bottle.
What you need to do, Blake, is you got to get all these people that do like, here's my Sheen hauls, but you got to be like, here's my Seal Box hauls, and people are just like open up boxes, right?
It's Seal Blunts now. It's Seal Blunts hauls.
The unboxing. Yeah.
That's a great name, by the way.
That is.
The unboxing
gotta-
would be terrible. They're like, these people didn't put any bubble wrap. They didn't put any.
But it didn't.
Spring for the
break.
good
No, you're good.
Be like,
Hey,
"You might have this
did you ship that bottle of mine to the guy in New York? I sent you an address to.
Don't cover
Blake
that
did
on
it
air.
personally.
Hold on, let me give his address out on online.
You know, Blake's got people.
That was on like
He's not the one.
My bad.
It's like
We're gonna
Christmas
talk
Eve.
business.
Fred
Yeah, it was
doesn't even
Christmas.
wish me Merry Christmas. He just says, "Ship this bottle out for me."
It's implied.
I'll chokehold you. I'll chokehold.
But okay,
Not
so
at
I'm
all.
fascinated
I'll
by this
double check.
TikTok
I
thing
think so.
because I know Gary Vee's huge into it after reading his book. But like, so I'm asking like all my friends that and their wives. I'm like, are y'all doing TikTok? And they're like, no, Instagram's where we're at. And it's like, it seems like there's like a 35 to 45 that's on Instagram. And I know there's older people going on TikTok, but I don't know. Just help enlighten me. I guess.
You got to be
I'm too
everywhere,
old for
man.
it.
You're
No,
in a
I'm too
Yeah.
old.
If you're a brand, you got to be everywhere. Where you place your where you like to spend your time, that's different. But you got to be there. Kenny did a great job. Like he's OG Bourbon TikTok, and I've just been dropping my
too late now.
dude. You were there, man. You were there before anybody, and you tried with it's a pain in the ass, man. It's all hard. No one gets how much goes into like that one little video you put up, and AI has helped a lot, but you still have to be there and talk and or bring knowledge, and everybody's got their own like little niche and brand. Some people got the looks, other people got the knowledge, so it's everyone's a little different. For me, like TikTok is just like I'm just dropping my little like blurbs with my interviews with celebrities and hoping that goes to watch or listen to a full episode.
But
Then I
I'm
get over
curious
there.
too. So, like, are people using both, say, like Instagram and TikTok, or are they just more loyal to TikTok versus Instagram?
I mean, I go between the two, but honestly, I use TikTok as a way that's just like it's more entertainment value. There's a lot of things that come on there, and it's not the same as I don't know. Like when you look at Instagram is still a bunch of still images and pictures, whereas TikTok is way more engaging to me. But that's just
But here, Kenny, I would say this. I would say like on Instagram, you earn that view and that follower because they are there based on you. With TikTok, with TikTok, you are there because the algorithm wants you there.
Yeah, isn't that the thing with TikTok? It's not necessarily about followers. It's about they have an attention. They have an attention algorithm. So like, say your audience like is your audience doesn't even matter. Your followers because it matters what the algorithm deems interesting to people, and that's how you get in people's feeds.
I think that's right.
Feedback over there. Sorry, I keep putting you on mute. Yes. So the way that TikTok does work is that if your
Kenny keeps trying to mute me, but I just
well, dude, you got this like echo from like the 80s, bro.
No, I told you to turn your speakers down. The longer you watch a video, the more it sees that, and the more it's going to push it out to more people to watch it, and the more people that watch longer of it. So, like if you have a 20-second video and people only watch it for 3 seconds, you're going to get buried quick. But if people watch it for 18 seconds, it's going to get pushed out to more people. If those people
Ryan,
Ryan, more people.
And Ryan, 18 seconds is better than 3 seconds.
Exactly.
I do.
So it like I said, but it's gotta be good. You gotta have that hook, and I mean it's gotta be like right there, and it's tough. I mean it truly is to make that kind of content. It does take a different kind of talent, and that's what I mean. I've watched a few of them already. It says you can't come on here and don't say who I am. Just get right into the meat of the subject. Don't set anything up. Start with something absolutely wild. I don't know why. I was talking to my wife about this.
But Kenny, that also goes against all brand building ever.
I don't understand why so many videos take place inside of a car and people are just sitting there talking next to each other inside of a car. But those ones seem to have a viral factor as well.
Can't do that with whiskey.
I mean,
Right,
you
well,
can. You just
Yeah.
don't make sure you don't have any keys with you, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, as Alan says in the chat, TikTok has 13 days left in the USA. I don't think that's going to actually happen, Alan. I mean, I've seen a lot of pretty good reports that Trump's going to not kill it, but we'll see. We'll see.
If it is, it'll be back a couple weeks later. You're not going to be able to take away something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I'm all for if we've given away all of our privacy. We've given away so much, and I am concerned when all that data as a whole is how it's used. So I mean, if that's the situation and it's going to somehow help our country,
What's it doing to hurt our country right now? I mean, you could call it a divide.
who the fuck knows, man?
but
I mean,
it's-
dude, what
is it any
the hell's
worse than any other social media? I mean, honestly,
what the hell's going right in our country right now? I mean, I think that's a better question. It's like, could some of these things be linked? I mean, I don't fucking know. Like, it's like,
people
God
can
damn it.
bully kids on YouTube. Like, I don't like. It's not going to stop anything if that's what people are worried
is
about.
that what they're using as is their marketing message on TikTok? Is that kids get bullied?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the angles.
I thought that the whole thing was that they were selling data to other countries. That's what I thought it was.
I think that was squashed a long time ago. Where that was because they have HQs inside of the U.S. already. I think part of it they said they had to completely separate and create a separate company. Is kind of what they're asking them to do, but.
Well, I mean, tech on the whole is kind of like under a lot of targets. Like, I mean, I think that's why Zuckerberg is like tried to get in good with Trump. Like, he was out at Mar-a-Lago not too long ago, and
I'm getting a flip phone and doing everything on paper.
Sure, you will.
Old man.
Do the
I don't
text ABC. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom.
I mean, it's just it's the world we're in. I don't think you can
Flip
get away with
phones.
it. I think when we gave up, we as a species, we always ask for things with more convenience, and we get further and further away from things that are hard. And like today, there's like so much snow outside. I didn't need to go out there and shovel the snow, and I'm looking at my neighbors. I'm like, why the fuck y'all doing that? You don't got to do anything. Just stay in your house. Everything's working. There's nothing to do. Just enjoy the house. Well,
No, you got.
Then you got the salt spreader just coming out there, slinging salt left and right.
With my type
I got out
that
and
you're going to have to
shoveled both
massage later, Fred.
what's? Oh, that's right. I do. Oh, a kitty massage. But,
All right, I'm
right.
taking off. Am
Yeah.
I uploaded?
Well, I'm going to kill the stream and then we can take a minute.
Ah,
Thank you, everybody
okay.
that
See
joined.
how slowly you upload.
Yeah, everybody that joined, appreciate it, and we'll see you here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, good crowd today with those comments.